Thank you for asking me what my takeaways are. I've got a few notes here that I compiled over lunch because it's been a pretty amazing conference. And thank you to Renewable Cities and all the sponsors and everyone. I have to say this has been one of the most uplifting conferences I've been to for quite some time. I've been entrenched in industry and association and engineering, EHS sustainability conferences for a while. All of you need to get out there, go to those conferences because there's been a bit of a flat line lately. So my first overarching takeaway is personally to myself and my colleagues is this message that we are ready. We're definitely ready for this renewable energy revolution. The tipping point is here. Check. But, I also heard clearly from the sessions I was in that there's several preconditions here, or conditions for success, and we're missing one of them. First, technically, innovation-wise, we kind of got it covered, we're kicking it. Economically, the same. We heard in the plenary this morning that the economy is awash in funds to provide that money for the infrastructure and change that's going to be needed. But where work needs to be done is on the policy side, the regulatory framework side. Something needs to be put in place all across the globe to knit these two pieces together and accelerate the momentum that we see happening right here. And just as a segue on the business side, because business is also critical to this, and something I heard in one of the sessions this morning that I thought was an amazing idea when we were asked about what local governments and cities can do with the pathways to Paris. And I heard this from the Vancouver Economic Commission, who are launching their green business platform shortly here in British Columbia in Vancouver. They had a thought to launch a campaign to ask businesses in Vancouver to commit to the 2-degree goal that aligns with what local governments and jurisdictions are doing around the world. I thought that was great and actually a good catalyst for ideas for others. Other takeaways, more sobering on this policy track, a chorus of voices through the plenaries and the sessions from Canadian, specifically local and city level folks expressing concern at the lack of provincial and national to local collaboration on this. Just a frustration. And contrast that with Germany, where my big takeaway was that what happened there might happen elsewhere, that in lieu of or as an alternative to the regulatory policy we might be used to here, that if all else fails, implementing policies without business input at all might be the way we need to go, so business better get involved. And now, so that was a very interesting takeaway. And then finally, in closing, I just can't resist asking people to consider that this conference has been perhaps one of the most important sources of renewable energy, and that is the charge we get from each other, from our networking, from our business card exchange, and I hope we all keep that up, and you all go out there and spread the word. This has been a fantastic conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to offer a few thoughts. Marjorie was very brief, and I'm perhaps be slightly longer, but I won't go too long. First of all, I thought the stage was really well set on Wednesday evening at the Pechakucha event, which I had not ever participated in before or seen before, and it was really remarkable. The energy and the buzz in the room set a standard, I think, that's been emulated and followed through on the last 2 days. And so congratulations for organizing that. I wanted to mention a few quotations that I picked up over the last 2 days that have been offered by people up here on the stage primarily. And Marion Smith set the stage, I think, very well yesterday morning when she said that, and quote, action on renewables is not just an environmental strategy, it's an economic strategy. And I think we've heard that time and time again. Marjorie just touched on it, coming from the business side. Harry Lehman followed up on that shortly thereafter and said that Energiewende in Germany has created 380,000 jobs. And I note that in the United States solar industry, last year, 180,000 people were directly employed in the solar PV industry in the United States. Wow. I mean, we are there. We are. There are challenges there, of course. One of the big ones being grid integration. That's something that needs a lot of work there, and Mike's happens to be working on that. It's something that we need to follow through on. Mark Jacobson showed us some of his model results that said, you know, the United States can do this. We can do everything we need in the United States in terms of energy production through renewables. And he's got a model result which will be coming out as soon as the peer review process is finished in about 3 months. That's something to watch for. Gregor Robertson, who was here on stage, said he brought a different dimension. He reinforced the notion that this is an economic opportunity, but he also said it's a moral obligation. I think that we dare not forget that. It was wonderful to have Brian Hansen here from Copenhagen. I want to turn to the exemplars now of cities around the world that are really doing things, in addition to Vancouver, of course. Brian offered us some statistics, which I thought are fascinating. 98% of heat consumption in Copenhagen is supplied by district heating. Now, they've been at it for 100 years. We're just starting to scratch the surface here in Canada and elsewhere, but the potential there is fantastic, and we need to follow through on that. He made something else that I thought, another comment that I thought was really important, and that is that when the city of Copenhagen offered shares in a wind turbine within the city limits, they were oversubscribed. Citizens said, yeah, I want a piece of that. So that they could say, hey, my apartment, I'm supplying my own electricity because I own a piece of that wind turbine you can see on the horizon. Fantastic. That suggests there's a community model that we need to really follow through on. It's not just private sector wind developers that need to be involved in the revolution that's upon us, but it's the community scale buying into it. Those of you who were fortunate enough to hear Mayor Bob Dixon from Greensburg, Kansas yesterday in one of the breakout sessions, he was inspired. Greensburg was destroyed by a tornado a few years back. 95% of the city was wiped out. He said that the width of the tornado was, I think he said 2 kilometers. He might have said 2 miles. He's American. In any event, it was, did you say 2 miles? Yeah. The width of the town is 2 miles, and they happen to coincide, and that's not good news if you're in the path of a tornado. But he offered a remarkable story of renewal of that town. And in doing so, he explained how they got there. And he said, you lead people to where you want them to go. You don't herd them where they'll scatter. Now, that's a very Kansas analogy. You don't herd them. But the point was really well taken. You lead people to where you want them to go. I think we're seeing that now, and we're seeing it in Vancouver. I have to add, in response to a question he was asked about carbon taxes and would that help in getting broader acceptance of the kind of renewable energy input we've seen, he said, we don't go there. In Kansas, you don't talk about carbon taxes. But he implied that he didn't need to go there because civic pride and ownership in the renewable energy revolution that Greensburg undertook was enough. I want to say something about youth. Esperanza Garcia, on Wednesday evening at the Pechacucha event, and those of you who were present there, you saw her bouncing across the stage just like a firecracker that was unrestrained. She was remarkable. But she reminded us, I think, that there is a constituency out there that we really need to seize, and that constituency is youth. They have energy. They need to be encouraged. They need to be harnessed. They need to be entrained. And they're standing there. There was a touching story told yesterday in a breakout session organized by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. One of the participants there reminded us that the former mayor of Vancouver, Mike Harcourt, years ago, his kids came home from school one day, and they said to Mayor Harcourt, their dad, why doesn't Vancouver have a recycling program, Dad? And Mike sat back and said, oh, why don't we? And a year later, Vancouver had a recycling program. I'll close, I'll try and hurry up here, because there were so many neat quotations that were offered. In the transportation plenary that was on this stage here yesterday afternoon, the electric vehicle one, Gil Friend from Palo Alto, he turned the tables on us. He asked an important question. He said, we should be asking what cities should not do. Not what we should do, but what we should not do. And then he added that let's stop subsidizing single occupancy vehicles. Let's stop subsidizing internal combustion engines. An interesting twist, I think, in approach. Marjorie already mentioned that Sean Kidney's remark this morning, which his enthusiasm on the stage was remarkable. Those of you who are in the room for the plenary, holy smoke, stand back. But he said, as Marjorie reported, we have money in spades. We are awash in capital with respect to opportunities to invest in renewable energy. He's forecasting a $100 billion market in green bonds this year internationally. That's extraordinary. Wow, good. It means we're here, as Marjorie said. But Ronan Dantec, the senator from Nantes in France, reminded us of something really important, that one risk we face in how we present the opportunities to society is climate fatalism. Let's not go there. We don't need to go there anymore. And in fact, as a scientist, I know that that doesn't work. So we have to adopt climate optimism as our way forward. My final quote is 3 words. It comes from Jose Echeverri of York University this morning. Barcelona did it. So, to summarize, keywords that came out either reading between the lines or overtly from some of the speakers. Cost is always an issue, but we're getting there. We're getting there. It's not so much an issue anymore. Convenience. Put it together with cost. We must make things easy for people to adopt. We're not going to change human behavior or societal behavior until we make it easy for people to adopt a new way of doing things. We need to focus on the convenience side as much as on the cost side. It became very clear that we were crying out for good political leadership. We're seeing it at the city scale, no argument. It was on display here in the last 2 days. But we're not seeing it at the provincial or the national scale in most countries in the world. Maybe France is an exception. I have a lot of time for what France is organizing now leading up to COP21. But we really need to scale up. And John Kerry, I think, I'll close with a comment that John Kerry made a year ago, right after the IPCC Fifth Assessment Report on Mitigation was released. And I'll paraphrase slightly because I can't remember the exact quote, but he said that we are looking at a $6 trillion opportunity. He was reflecting on that economic value that's in front of us. But that's not the important part of his quotation. The important part was, he added, but we lack political willpower. Getting that political willpower in place, it's no longer an option. It's an obligation. And we're seeing it at the city scale. Our challenge for all of us now is to go back to our various communities and push to ramp that up to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you. So, now's the chance for getting the same kind of feedback, ideas from all of you who've been participants in this session, speakers and participants. And this is an open session, so we'll call on some people individually, but I'd like to just start by we come from lots of different constituencies and many different countries. I'd like to actually start by asking city elected officials. We've had a good representation of elected officials, councillors, mayors. So I invite, first of all, comment from any of you who are elected officials about things that you've heard here that have had resonance for you in your city, in your municipality, that you'll be taking back. Any comments from an elected official? David. Microphone here. And by the way, if you could, whoever you are, just before you speak, just give your name and your affiliation, please.
Thank you very much, Michael. And if I may do so on behalf of elected officials from outside Vancouver, first of all, thank you and all the organizers for what I found to be a tremendously stimulating event. And it was a treat to be able to get outside of City Hall and get reinvigorated. And yes, I haven't been shy to speak already at several sessions of this conference, but I have to add, he did ask me to speak, so I was primed.
I asked you to be ready.
I was primed, I was ready. I'm going to talk about 100%. I've had a bit of a dilemma about whether to aim for 100%. Is that too far? Does that scare people away? And I ended up going full circle. I arrived here feeling like I had to back away from that goal, that the way to get buy-in was to aim for something that didn't scare people. But I ended up, with all that I heard here, right back at the place where I started, which is actually, I'll credit Herman Scheer, who many of you will know of as one of the key players in the event, if I get that right. And when I interviewed him for my film Powerful about 6 years ago, and I won't try and imitate the German accent, but he said, you have to aim for 100% because it takes away the excuse for bridging technologies. It takes away all the waste of time and money on the half steps that will take us partway there because we don't have time for bridging. We don't have time for half steps. And ultimately, we heard a few people at these sessions. We're talking now about 100% renewable as a global brand. I'm sure I'm quoting someone when I say that. Let's take it as that. We heard about style. We heard about communication in some of the sessions and the importance of selling with the right language. How can you not like the idea of 100%? Less of something doesn't sell. More of something does. So I think that is something that we have to embrace. The points, again, about messaging, self-sufficiency, autonomy, civic pride. I even threw in a word that I remember from a good session at another conference 2 years ago, attachment, local attachment. These are all things that are pretty universal. The idea of the civic pride and attachment is, if you make the exercise, if you make the transition to a renewable city something that becomes a source of civic pride and a source of attachment in the sense that people feel attached to their community, I want to be able to boast that I'm from Ottawa, because I want Ottawa to be a place where people go, oh, that's that place that is at or well on its way to 100% renewable. That's the kind of thing that gets people excited. 20%. Not so much. These were the kinds of things, the messages that I leave with. Aim big, speak to the heart, and get your messaging. And that will differ in all of our contexts, but I'm working on mine for Ottawa.
Great. Thanks very much, David. Another civic official? At the back?
City of Nelson.
Right.
And I also wish to echo my colleague from Ottawa's sentiments about 100% goal. And also about the quality of this conference. It's been amazing and eye-opening. I think you did some excellent summaries out there. And so I'll just mention one thing, one discussion that I took part in that I found very, very interesting. And it reminded me that climate change and responses to climate change are not standing on their own. That they can be wrapped up and incorporated in approaches we're taking with other issues. And yesterday I took part in a discussion about creating cooperative energy cooperatives in an uncooperative environment that was held with Ashoka Findlay. And he talked about how issues of poverty can also be addressed at the same time that we're responding to the goal of achieving renewable energy. And I just wanted to bring that forward in this Thank you.
Thank you very much. And although we didn't have as much formal attention to that, the issue, the relationship between equity, the equity objectives that all of us share and certainly cities share, as well as the greening objectives and the renewable energy objectives is, I think, a very deep one that's come out in some other sessions. Lady in the back of the room.
Thanks. Adrian Carr, City Councilor here in Vancouver. But you know, one of the most amazing things that I heard, and you will not believe what this is the fellow who said that the climate scientists are all depressed. My husband and I have worked together on environmental issues for decades. And he gives me climate change and crisis update every morning. He reads all the website information. I thought it was just him that was depressed. So I feel really good. I'm really a great pool of people. And I was probably one of my proudest moments being on council was when we made the decision to go from Vancouver becoming a 100% renewable energy city. And at the time that I voted in favor of that, and you should know it was across the board, left, right, and center, left, right, and green, actually, is that I thought, God, can we really do this? Like, it really was a question in my mind. I didn't have at all a hesitation about feeling like we had to do it for the sake of our children and combating climate change. I was right there on the kind of motivation from inside, but I didn't understand whether we could. And what this conference is giving me is hope that we can. Not hope, but just confidence that we can do it. Like, I love all the stories that I have learned about what people are doing in their different places, whether it's governments or whether it's at various levels or it's NGOs or it's institutions. So I mean, I've got a whole book of notes, and I want to thank everyone for your contribution. I've got lots of cards, and I do plan on following up with those cards. But for me, it's truly hopeful, and it's daunting in terms of having to work with the federal and provincial governments. Those, I think, are the biggest barriers that we've got. We don't have, well, anyway, you know our situation. But I think we've got the, well, I know we have the political will, and I think we have a public in Vancouver that's right on board with this. So it's a very hopeful day, hopeful last 2 days for me. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Another city official who would like to make a contribution? Yes, sir.
Nils Jensen, I'm the mayor of Oak Bay, which is over in Victoria, about 18,000 people, but I'm also chair of the regional district. There's a couple of takeaways for me. I found this forum to be incredibly inspirational. And I heard Barcelona can do it. I heard Copenhagen can do it. I heard Burlington, Vermont can do it. And so there's no reason why Greater Victoria can't do it. So I'm going to take that message back. The other message that I'm going to take back is that we know the capital is there, we know the technology is there, and what Sandu Johnson said in the very first day, and he said something along those lines and then added what we need is the process to be there. And that's particularly so in British Columbia, where we have the federal, provincial, regional district and the local government levels kind of at times working in different directions. So what I'm going to take away from this is what we do need an appropriate process to get the capital working with the technology and delivery. So thank you very much for everything you've done up there and the organizers. It's been a great forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Two more at this table.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Trevor Birch, Mayor of the City of Woodstock, Ontario. And for me, it's the knowledge mobilization. So this list of names, I've met quite a few of you, some I haven't. Jose Echeverry went through some slides with some of the great things that are going on in Woodstock and Oxford County. And for me, coming here, I thought, you know, I'd be looking at ways to invest in more renewable energy. And what I'm going home with is how to invest in people and their stories so that we can mobilize the youth to teach the adults that this is what we need today. Thank you.
Matt Braun, I'm councillor in the North Vancouver District, and although I know many of you would love to keep your politicians talking on and on for the rest of the conference, I'm going to keep it short to 3 points that I took away. If your current framework isn't working, make a new one. If you can't get through them, go around them. And it's not our renewable energy future, it's renewable energy now.
Thank you. I know we've got a number of city staff from different sized cities and municipalities, different countries. Would anybody from, or city officials who are working on these sorts of problems, like to tell us what you've heard, what you're taking away? I'm looking for, otherwise I'm going to put something.
Hi, I'm Deborah Sargent with the Town Smithers, and I must say this has been the most energizing conference I've been in for many, many years. It's so refreshing to actually talk about a future that is achievable now. And I think the message that I take from all of the discussions that I've had is, I think it's something that Gil Friend said from Palo Alto, we go first. That's the cities that are leading this whole renewable energy and the individuals that are in this room, and it's just, it's very empowering. Really delighted to be here.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're right. I had a chance for one of the 2 days meeting of the Capital Mutual Cities Alliance, and then 2 days here. The short version is I talked to Sara this morning about cities that set these goals, and you know, it's not to. There's a lot of people who come visiting us. There's probably a lot of people who come visiting Vancouver, and it's just like. I think he asked the direct question: where do we go to learn? And I suppose the answer is here. To come here to learn from each other. So to me, it's all bits and pieces of specific discussions. It's a lot about process. It's a lot about how to, those guys saying, if you can't go through them, go around them. How not to get stuck in what's difficult, but it's really difficult to pinpoint specific things, but a lot of process, a lot of new coming from Europe. You get a new perspective on things when you're stuck in. We face the same problems, but we're stuck in very different systems. So that's probably what I would take back from this conference, and just to. We should, a lot of the cities here with this ambition, allow ourselves to find places where we can go and learn from each other.
Thank you. So,
I have a really large carbon footprint to be here. I'm from the South Island of New Zealand, although I've spent 20 years in Auckland. And for those of you who live in Vancouver, you probably know that Auckland wants to be Vancouver. But I would just like to say, apart from thank you for our city's invitation to attend this conference, but just to remind you that it doesn't matter whether you're in a town of 5,000 like Smithers, or you're in a city of 1.5 billion, or you're in a city of 17.6 billion, is that we all face the same challenges. We have to engage with our communities. We have to get them to take personal ownership. But most importantly, we have to take the leadership to get to where we want to go. If we're going to make a difference for our world and our children, it starts with the people in this room. And being part of this has been an incredible experience. And certainly meeting you and the people I have met, I certainly will be taking back an enthusiasm for what renewable energy offers our community from an economic and financial, personal, community point of view. That it's not just about energy, or it's not just about electricity, should I say. It's certainly about energy. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to my long flight home tonight.
Solar system, I didn't say yes right away because I'm not a utility. And it generates energy. Yeah. I came here kind of, I almost backed out actually because we're really quite busy right now, and I decided, I better go to this. I'm so happy that I did. I've been to other types of conferences and they haven't been nearly as rewarding as this one. And the biggest thing I get from all of this is when you're working in business and you're having to kind of work from day to day. I'm not like all terrible, just starting out. You feel as though you're a little bit alone and you're working against the grain. And what I got from this conference is that we're all in this together, and that there's a feeling of cooperation amongst not only policymakers, but the end users, that is the people of the communities. And also, I'm feeling as a business, I want to contribute somehow. I don't just want to, not at the expense of people, but to help forward, for lack of a better word, humanity. So it's really, really encouraging to see everyone sitting down like this and be able to talk in just a conversation instead of I'm this person, this is what I do, you better listen to me. So it's been extremely rewarding, a little bit speechless, which is not normal.
thanks very much, Mark.
The Clean Energy Association of BC. Our members are producers of clean and renewable energy in this province. I think what I'm taking away, and I'm reflecting upon this a lot, we look upon ourselves as good. We're part of the good, if you will, in a province that's going through a fair amount of debate on fossil fuel versus renewables and other forms of energy. It's easy to put oneself into that category. I think what I'm taking away is that all resource development, all of us, need to be assessed against the same standard. We all have impacts. We all have benefits, if you will. It depends on how you view them. And for me, that's a good takeaway that I'm taking from this conference. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm J.M. Torrey with Big Ground Transportation. We install electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and I'm president of the company that I founded. It's been extremely enlightening to be in a conference where I don't have to yell and scream and jump up and down to get people to pay attention to the transportation side of renewables and that we're part of the solution. So thank you for I think we're finally getting to a point where people are realizing the full potential of the industry that we're in, and that we are definitely part of the solution, and there's so much that we can do together in combination on the transportation side as well as the energy production side. So we're all in the same mix, and that's the biggest takeaway that I got from this conference. And I thank everybody here that I was able to speak to, and look forward to speaking to those who haven't. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I'm here ostensibly on behalf of Business of Vancouver newspaper, but I also have communicated by writing a book about urban food, and I just want to say something that the biggest single thing that any one of us could do to lower our carbon footprints and perhaps have an impact on the energy that we consume is happening outside our cities, and that is simply eat less meat. And we haven't talked about food at all. And there's a whole range of energy issues that are coming from outside our flights, our concrete, all that kind of stuff that I think has to enter this conversation at some point, somehow.
Thank you very much.
My name is Sean McGee. I work with Bullfrog Power. We're kind of an energy company, but I'm mostly a communicator and an educator. I think the most important thing that I took away was that we're not selling renewable energy, we're not selling technology. We're communicating about these stories, we're telling stories of hope. When I think about what Brian was telling about Copenhagen, people don't ride bikes because it's the green thing to do. It's about living a good life. It's about making a better life. And it's just amazing that actually green transportation, renewable energy, energy efficiency, these things make life better. And those are the kinds of stories that I'm excited to be a part of, to be able to share with people, to give hope, and rather than this climate despair that we hear about so often. And there's no doubt that all the stories that we hear, for sure, are stories that are going to continue to resonate with other people. And I'm lucky enough that I get to travel all over Canada, and I'm for sure going to be sharing the stories that I've heard here, and just keep on raising the profile of hope. That's the core, I think, that's going to really take this wave, turn it into a tsunami, and just run around the world. And that will be that now, rather than the future.
Thank you.
Hi. Well, I guess one of the biggest lessons that I'm taking from here is, and many of you have spoken about this today, is that we share many challenges and we share many dreams and we share missions. And that's really amazing to hear, because when you came from a development country like Brazil, we kind of have the idea that we have nothing in common with you, actually, and that we can only learn from you because you're so ahead of us in many aspects, and that we cannot work together. And I think one of the things that this conference taught me is that this is not true. We are actually together, and we are hiding together towards a mission and a future that we want to build. So I think, and as Sean has said quite well, it doesn't actually matter where we came from or what is our job focus when we go back to our city. Because at the end, we share the same mission and the same challenge, which is to empower and inspire people. Because the revolution we are seeking for won't happen through companies or through government. It's going to be guided by people and for people. So please, let's not forget it, and let's help each other. Thanks.
So I'm 29. I'm, I guess, close to the older demographic then soon, but part of this movement and part of this work that cities are doing to embrace that new renewable future. I would like to make a comment from a nonprofit representation perspective. There's more nonprofit organizations present in the crowd right now. From our perspective, it's extremely difficult to bring such a variety and diversity of cities into one place. So this is something that was happening the last 2 days, and it's amazing to see that. It's extremely helpful to share stories, so I totally agree with the comment that the mayor of Woodstock made. We have to share these stories among each other and also among the youth, including myself. We would like to thank the Renewable Cities team to make it possible for us as an organization to bring some of the municipalities here that we work with, including our delegates from South Africa. So a very big thank you for that, to make them part of the conference. And last but not least, our organization, which is called Sustainable Cities International. We have been around for 20 years, so we have quite some experience, not myself, but everyone who's working with us. And we see our role as nonprofits, and we're in line here with the Center for Dialogue and the Renewable Cities team. We take the role as mediators, as facilitators of this conversation. So if I would like to say something that I would like to take away from this conference, then it is our desire and aspiration to seek for more collaboration and help you from here when you go home and be your facilitator. So please reach out to us because we seek the collaboration.
Thank you very much.
6 a.m. wherever I'm from in the world. And I don't have the energy that I have.
It's renewable.
Yeah. Let's try to keep that. So, how are we going to effectively change the world? How are we going to take what we've all learned here in the past 3 days to our hometowns and make a difference? And there's one big answer, and that's youth. We are the ones responsible for undertaking the global challenge. Meeting the international youth and in the work that I've done throughout however long I've lived. As youth, the future is ours. And the solutions are there, engaging us, for city councilors to have a youth representative in your team, for policymakers to ask and engage youth, to include their voices in policy. And you're right, there is Woodstock, and the one person who's a big fan of Woodstock. You're right, there is a lot that adults can learn from youth, because youth are not the leaders of tomorrow. We have shown time and time again that youth are the leaders of today. And young people have been taking action. And there's 3 words, Brazil can do it, there's another 3 words that I can share with you, and that's, I am one. I am one, but I founded an organization, International Youth Council, that is supporting sustainable development globally, and it's in 30 countries all over the world, supporting young entrepreneurs. I am one, but I've engaged and educated 15,000 young people in my country. Shauna is one, but with a vision, she brought all of us together for 9 months of work and an incredible team, and Ambassador Michael Small heading this. Everyone has an I am one, and we all walk out of this saying, we are one. We are one, and we will commit to building 100% renewable energy in our own countries, towns, cities, regions. Thank you.
Thank you.